we're actually prohibited from flying at this location. So we will have to probably walk a little bit up.
You guys will be up there. I'm just going to quickly pop along and talk to the Labour sprinters. Yeah. Hi there. Very good. Neither can I.
Can't vote here either.
No, Kiwi with an American accent. It's different.
Let's confuse people.
Just doing a recording for a podcast about climate change.
Right.
I just thought we could ask you guys are out, wearing shirts and doing stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Wondering if climate change was a sort of a factor at all for you for the election. If it's something you're thinking about for it. Is that all right if I?
Is down at 441 Malvern Road.
Oh, excellent.
About 700 metres away if you wanted to get him on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
yes.
So if you go down and turn right.
Yep.
There's an early voting centre down there.
Oh, okay.
All the candidates will be there.
Fantastic. Oh, I'd love to do that.
More useful to your podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm just trying to sort of get some people as well.
Yeah,
sort
I'm
of
happy to, yeah.
Yeah, great. So, sorry, what was your name?
My name's Mary Delahunty.
Great, thank you, Mary. So is climate change a factor for you at all in this election?
I think climate change is a massive factor in every election. It's a great challenge for this country. We're large carbon emitters and we need to deal with climate action head on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Mary. Cheers. So I've just caught up with the Act on Climate crew. We're going to do some flyering down Chapel Street now. Because the Liberal candidate's office on Chapel Street is just across the road from a polling place, we can't actually hand out flyers within several hundred meters of there. So just across the road, though, there are some Labour supporters handing out how to vote cards. So I went over and got one opinion, at least, on the importance of climate change in the election. And she actually told me about an early voting centre just around the corner on Malvern Road where the Labour candidate was going to be. So I'm headed there now to check it out and see if he can answer some questions for me. Neil Farrow, lower house candidate for Pren, for Labour. How do you feel about climate change in the context of this election?
Look, I think this election will be very important in relation to climate change. If Labor holds government, we have a commitment to a 50% renewable energy target in Victoria by 2025 and zero net emissions by 2050. On the other hand, if the Liberals win government in Victoria, we'll see that target completely abolished. We'll see a ban again effectively on wind farms, and we'll see the huge investment we've had in renewable jobs in Victoria all cut in very quick succession. So I think it's a really important election for Victoria to get on the front foot and to keep the progress that we've achieved in climate change going.
Excellent. If you've got a voter who's like a number one issue is climate change voter, who want to see more done quicker, does like the Greens' stance of more on climate in the short term, does that not appeal more to them? And is Labour's position kind of a defensive vote against the damage Liberals would do?
Absolutely, Labor has put forward a positive plan around climate change. In fact, we're leading a lot of states and territories in Australia around our commitment in the climate change space. There's only one party of government that is committed to and continued to get things done around climate change and emissions in Victoria, and that's the Labor Party. So while other parties and minor parties around the edges will throw stones and can say anything they want, I think they're increasingly facing a deficit in their credibility because of their inability to do action. And you're hearing here today, the parties that are represented in the minor parties in the seat of Pran have made the same promises 4 years ago as they do today, and we've seen no action in those areas. It's only been a Labor government that's delivered for all Victorians when it comes to climate change.
Is that not because of kind of the numbers and the dynamics of power that they weren't able to enact any of the promises from 4 years ago?
Look, Labor is holding a majority government in the lower house, and we will form a majority government should the voters of Victoria choose after this election. We've got a strong record and a great group of people who are committed to climate change. And as I said, our agenda's been really clear when it comes to climate. There is really only one choice in this Victorian elections. Do you want a progressive Labor government with a 50% renewable emissions target, or do you want a regressive Liberal government in Victoria?
Yep, and a government that would scrap the VRET.
The Liberal Party has committed to completely scrapping the VRET, absolutely.
And Neil, how do you personally feel about climate change in sort of terms of your preferences? Like how much does this concern you as an issue, and how pressing is it upon you, the sort of trajectory the world is on with climate change?
Look, as I said, the Labor Party has got a great story to tell when it comes to climate change and renewable energies, but we also need to remember that in this election there'll be lots of other important issues: health, jobs, education and transport. Our record investment in public transport is, in another way, a form of addressing climate change and taking more cars off the road as well, as is our announcement $28 million for a cycle path down St Kilda Road. So I think one of the challenges of government is you've got to continue to focus on a vast majority of issues and really lead the way, and that's what we've done in Victoria under the Andrews Labor team, and continue to deliver for all Victorians in the environment, in health, in jobs, in transport and in education.
Thank you so much, Neil. All the best.
No problem.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quite
Still, it's pretty crowded looking, isn't it? That's a good sign. Excellent. All right, so I'm here with Sam Hibbins, currently lower house MP. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Which you guys don't call state senate or state house. It's just lower house and upper house
Legislative Assembly.
and then there's the legislative council above
correct.
that.
That's correct.
Slowly getting there.
Yeah.
I've been here a couple of years. So Sam, I'm out talking to people about climate change in regards to the election and how they feel about it,
Yeah.
how much they're actually thinking about climate change when they place their vote. So sort of what's your take on how important this election is in terms of climate change?
Oh, well, this is a critical election in regards to climate change. We rapidly need to decarbonise Victoria's economy, particularly our energy sector, which, as you know, is one of the most polluting sectors, in fact, in the world per capita. We need to rapidly shift away from our coal-fired power stations and put in place 100% renewable energy. Our plan does that by 2030, and at the moment we're the only party with a plan to really truly phase out our coal-fired power and shift to renewables.
So how do you feel about people who are Labour supporters who care about the climate? I've talked to some of them today. Are they deluding themselves a bit by not looking at the facts close enough to say that Labour's got a plan, but they're not realising that that plan doesn't do enough?
Well, there's no doubt that the Greens have been setting the agenda on renewables and Labor's playing catch-up, but the reality is Labor does not have a plan to phase out coal-fired power stations. In fact, they're looking to continue and even expand the coal industry in the Latrobe Valley. That's not good for the climate. It's not good for jobs and employment in the Latrobe Valley, which really needs to transition away from coal, not double down on what is a dying industry.
So just to connect the dots there for some listeners and even for myself, that's the coal to hydrogen plans that Labour have just announced?
That's correct. Coal to hydrogen plans. In fact, they just this year they released their plans on coal, which said they were open for business for new coal projects. The only emission standards they're putting in place is the fact that the new projects can't be more polluting than an existing coal-fired power station, which is outrageous.
So that's asking for carbon neutrality or carbon status quo rather than carbon reduction.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I mean, we are really at a critical decade in terms of climate change, and we can't be waiting till 2050 or before these coal-fired power stations, reach the end of their life. We need to be putting in plans in place now to phase out coal and to shift to 100% renewables.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Sam. Good luck with the election.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So I'm here at the Melbourne Road early polling place with, sorry, what was your name there?
Janice.
Thank you, Janice. And Janice, you're actually our Sam Hibbins auntie. Very good. So how important is climate change to you in this election coming up on Saturday?
It's very prominent in my reasons for voting for Greens, because they certainly are prepared to stand out on that issue and hopefully persuade the government that gets into office to think likewise. But it's running out of time.
I'm glad you led into that, because climate change is to me this huge, very pressing thing. It scares me to start thinking about it, because I know we're not doing enough, and I'm scared about my future kids and everything. How do you feel about sort of the Greens policies? Do you feel like they are enough, or they are just starting to push the boulder?
Oh no, I think the Greens are very progressive in the way they think. So most of their policies are more progressive than the other parties. They are certainly looking at the long term, and as long as they look at the long term, I'm happy. And that's on all issues. It doesn't matter. I mean, issues come up all the time, and as long as they are progressive and not regressive, I think they'll always have a place in Australian politics.
Well, thank you so much for your time there. I love the green eyeshadow as well. It matches perfectly. Oh my goodness, the shoes too. It looks fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, and good luck today. Thanks. Can I ask you sort of
And who are you again?
So I'm with Climactic. Yeah. Well, it's basically me and a couple other people. We do a podcast about climate change, talking to how normal people feel about it and what they're doing about climate change and sustainability.
And what have you found?
That people who are concerned are very concerned, and people who aren't, I'm jealous of, because they've got a lot less to worry about.
Yeah.
But
Hello,
yep.
Katie Allen. Thank you so much.
Can I just ask, how do you feel about climate change in regards to the election?
In regards to the state election or federal election?
To this coming up election, but then the federal next year. You can answer either way.
Well, I think I need to have an understanding. I have a major problem. I agree I think sustainability is a good thing. However, I also think that we hear people here and across everywhere you speak about the increase in costs, particularly with energy costs, and I think you've got to get that balance right, and I don't think the balance is right. I think certainly closing down Hazelwood Power Station prematurely before they had the renewables up and going was absolutely ridiculous, and we're going to suffer from it as a community, and the reality is that it hits the very poorest of our community, and I think that's appalling.
Do you feel like going forward with the reaction that should be building more coal in the short term, or just rushing?
I'd like to know an answer, and perhaps you can answer it for me, about how we're going to balance the increase in electric cars. Where is the electricity going to come from?
I'm not actually sure, to be honest. It's a very, very good question. I need to speak to more experts in the field, and I know that electric cars aren't sort of the be-all and end-all of this situation as well. If you do life cycle analysis, electric cars work out to be about the same. So it's something people want to do because they want to be part of the solution, but
I don't know that it is part of the solution, and I think that's the difficulty. I think the difficulty is that we're grappling with gimmicky outcomes rather than looking at what is sustainable across the world. And I think we've got to look at the Australian economy as well and see how we fit in vis-a-vis countries such as China and India. But I'd like to see us have the argument about nuclear.
Yeah, so would I as well, honestly. I'm happy to leave that in. It might shock some of my listeners. It's great. Can I just ask, do you feel like a vote for Katie Allen in this election is a step towards a safer climate, or is it kind of an interim kind of stay-the-course approach for the moment while we do get better, tangible solutions worked out rather than the gimmicky?
I think we'll get a better balance, and she is highly respected. She's a great professional. She's got an extraordinary mind, and I know that she will look at a lot of these issues and also reflect what her community think. I think she will be listening to her community, and she'll be able to reflect those properly in the Parliament.
Thank you so much for your time there. I'll go talk to Katie. Unfortunately, I didn't speak to Katie Allen, the Liberal candidate for Pran. She originally agreed to speak to me, but then changed her mind. So I'm not sure what her policy on climate change is. So do you feel like, in terms of really pragmatic, like how we solve the climate crisis, is a vote for the Animal Rights Party, Animal Justice Party, this election, do you feel like it is an important step in actually solving the climate crisis, or is it kind of a protest vote?
No, absolutely can be a step towards ending climate change. Animal agriculture contributes more to climate change than all transport put together, cars, planes, trucks, the whole lot. So it is a step in the right direction, 100%. And more people are getting aware of the effect of animal agriculture on the climate. Deforestation in Australia is at rates comparable with the Amazon. So that affects everything. So, yeah.
Rainfall patterns, yeah, the effects are huge. We have a lot of people in permaculture on the show talking about those impacts, and people may not realize the links between animal agriculture and deforestation and the drought season we're seeing now in all of Australia. So are you a candidate at all, or are you just out here canvassing for people? You're one of the candidates?
Yeah, I'm the lead candidate for the Animal Justice Party in the Southern Metro. Ben Schultz is my name. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Sorry, I've only heard the Port Phillip candidate speak at the candidates forum, so I'm not. Right. There's a lot of faces, a lot of names to learn. So fantastic. So how long have you been involved with the party?
2 years now. So I ran actually for the council election 2016 in Canal Ward at City Port Phillip. That was after coming back from living overseas for a couple of years. So, I looked at factory farming as, well, for ethical reasons, It was a protest for me first to go vegan for ethical reasons, and then I learned about how much factory farming contributes to climate change, ocean dead zones, the whole lot. It's absolutely abhorrent. And then last but not least, health reasons. So I can see the health effects that animal products have on humans. So, it's a leading source of heart disease. And there's all sorts of studies that will be coming out. Bacon, sausages are carcinogenic, for example. So yeah, there was, a big learning curve. I went vegan. I started becoming involved in animal rights, and then environmental reasons. I always knew it infected the environment. And then last, health. So it's voting for animals. It's a broad spectrum approach to a whole range of issues, humans, environmental. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ben. So many potential questions. I'd love to have you as like a full-on interview. That'd be great. Yeah, a lot of people are going to be freed up post-election, which is going to be nice. It's been a bit crazy before that.
Say one thing. In Australia, we grow 1 million hectares of sorghum, or thereabouts. Okay, 2.5 million tons of sorghum get produced in Australia. 1 million hectares of animal feed, because humans don't eat sorghum. So I think 99.9% of it goes to feed animals here and abroad. Imagine what even 500,000 hectares could do in terms of feeding the human population, and then rewild the rest, reforest the rest. It's such an inefficient system, growing feed to feed animals, which we then in turn eat. So that's my little bit I wanted to add. Thanks.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ben. Cheers. If I can ask one more question, Ben, just quickly, like how urgent does this election feel to you in terms of climate change, in terms of your kind of awareness and your level of concern about climate change? Does this kind of feel like a very pivotal election?
Oh, 100%. That's why we're doing it. We've got 60 candidates now that are all, dedicated to creating awareness about animal agriculture in particular as a leading source of climate change. We've got that report came out from the IPCC that said we've got 12 years to arrest increasing temperatures. If animal agriculture is a leading source of climate change, we need to be on top of that. We need to be creating awareness, and we'll have no excuse in 30 years if climate change spirals out of control if we haven't done things like reduce our meat consumption by 90-odd%. We're not telling people to go vegan overnight. We love them to, but it's not going to happen. So this is one of the most important steps in starting that process of transitioning away from animal agriculture towards a plant-based economy and agricultural economy. If we don't do that and we don't create awareness and let people know exactly how much impact animal agriculture takes, then we're going to be right behind the 8 ball in 12 years' time. In 5 years' time.
So AJP isn't a huge supporter of the democracy sausage then at polling places?
A vegan democracy sausage for sure.
Excellent. Good. I can get behind that. Well, thanks again, Ben. Cheers. Thanks.
Cool. So, and this is the last time that I'm going to do this. And this is going to air after the election. Friday night. Wow. Pre-election. So this is a bit of a coordinator update. So, yeah, it has been a really massive year for Act on Climate. Our first year was really marked by successfully getting the Climate Change Act passed through the Parliament and securing some investment in climate change action with that $4.3 million scheme that was announced in Maryborough last year. This year was all about accountability and trying to secure some more gains. When it comes to accountability, I think that we can be really proud of our efforts. The Liberal Party, we are well and truly giving them the shits for their position to do nothing on climate change, which is not good enough. And, we've managed to do so from the benefit or advantage of moral high ground, because we have for years behind the scenes actually engaged very constructively with the Liberals, the shadow ministers. We've been sending them briefings about how they can act on climate. We've been writing public articles about how they can act on climate change. Still nothing. So yeah, the head in the sand action really did make a splash, and it was a bit of a morale ruining exercise, I suspect, for them. And so it should be. Just the lightning round of actions that we have coming up this week, kicking off in Paran, at Liberal Party offices and shop fronts and elsewhere, that will also just kind of give us that final splash. When the results come in, I suspect that the Liberal Party's poor position on climate change, it will have taken some gloss off the Liberal Party and off Matthew Guy and their electability. And yeah, I think we can all be really proud of our efforts on that front. If we weren't doing this, it wouldn't have happened. Like, it's that simple. And it would be e-NGOs with, phone banking and door knocking, but probably only phone banking. So yeah, we've managed to get creative and do a whole bunch of stuff that was really fun. When it comes to securing more gains, this is where, we haven't had a greater impact. than I expected that we would have. Obviously, we've been making the case for a Victorian Climate Change Action Fund for 6 months. We're 4 days away from the polling day. Most people have voted, well, not most people, a lot of people have voted in pre-polls this year. So the likelihood of a Labor announcement over the next 4 days, it's probably fairly slim, which is disappointing. So I think the question for us to consider is, you know, how do we build on the momentum that we gained holding the Liberals to account, and how do we channel that into a positive, proactive agenda for 2019? So yeah, I think that's all I've got for a bird's eye view update. But yeah, regardless of the result on Saturday, we can be really proud of our efforts. We have just done an exceptional job, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than campaigning with the badass Act on Climate collective.
The Climactic Collective.